The U.S. will send $64 million in aid to support humanitarian efforts in Afghanistan. At the same time, the Defense Department will shift its approach to countering terrorist threats in the area. Lisa Curtis is a senior fellow at the Center for New American Security. She is director of the Indo-Pacific Security Program at CNAS. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you.
I want to start with the humanitarian assistance because the U.S. has said we want to help the Afghan people. We want to help the women and the girls. How do you do that without supporting the Taliban regime?
Well, I think it is important for the U.S. to provide humanitarian assistance. Afghans have relied on international aid for the last 20 years. In fact, 70% of the Afghan budget was from international assistance. So certainly we should be getting assistance into those Afghans for their basic needs: food, shelter, medicine. However, that aid is different than the $9 billion in frozen assets that the U.S. holds of the Afghans. And that, I think, should be conditioned on the Taliban demonstrating they're going to fight terrorism, they're going to respect women's rights. And unfortunately, the signs are not good on that. The interim government that was just named includes Sirajuddin Haqqani, a well-known terrorist leader. In fact, he heads up a State Department designated foreign terrorist organization, and he has American blood on his hands. So that is a different issue. But yes, we should be getting humanitarian assistance in for the Afghans' basic needs.
Well, how do you do that? Because it's not like the Taliban are going to be friendly to, I guess Americans helping. I don't know, maybe they are. But isn't there a security issue? What's the logistics of getting that aid to the right people and it not being stolen by bad actors?
Well, look, there are dozens of international non-governmental organizations that have been working in Afghanistan over the last 20 years. And so to the extent that we can funnel the aid directly to these NGOs, I think we have a better chance of it getting to where it needs to go. But look, the Taliban, they understand that people are suffering. They understand that they require this international assistance. So I think they will facilitate it getting to the people that it needs to get to. So I do think it is possible to do that, and we can work through those organizations that are there, that are established and know what they're doing.
What about security? Who handles that?
Well, these NGOs have chosen to stay in Afghanistan. They, in some cases, have already been working with the Taliban under Taliban-controlled areas. So they understand how to work with the Taliban, and they feel secure enough to stay there even though the Taliban has taken over the government. So I think it is possible that the Taliban will maintain security for these international NGOs to keep operating. I think the main concern that we have is the terrorist problem, right? And is the Taliban going to facilitate the reemergence of terrorist groups, or are they going to make sure that terrorists are not able to set up shop again in the country? And we just don't know the answer to that yet.
How much control do they have, though? I mean, it's not like they can control ISIS. ISIS did the attack at the airport.
Well, I think that's right. They don't control the entire country. They're also coming back to governing after being out of government 20 years. Things have changed a great deal in Afghanistan. So I think it's a valid question. Are they really going to be able to control all these terrorist groups that are operating? ISIS-K, the obvious one, but also Al-Qaeda continues to operate, and they continue to have alliances with Al-Qaeda. So I think these are all very valid questions, but look, top of our mind has to be the Afghan people, and to end their suffering. And to do this, we're going to have to provide some assistance. We're going to have to allow those organizations to do their job in meeting the basic needs of the Afghans.
And Lisa, who takes the lead from the U.S. government perspective on that aid, the humanitarian aid? Is it USAID? Does the State Department work through the UN? How does that work?
Well, USAID will direct the assistance to the different organizations. So yes, they take the lead in providing this assistance, but we also provide money through the UN organizations, so that happens as well. But USAID would be the primary government agency that is overseeing where the aid is directed, how it's being used. For example, USAID had to seek a license from the Treasury Department in order to provide funding for organizations that were operating in Taliban-held areas. Before that, we weren't even allowed to provide aid in certain areas of the country. So all that's had to change. New authorities have been given to be able to do this, and I think that's the right thing to do. Where we have to be careful is in not rushing to grant the Taliban official diplomatic recognition or to grant them broad economic assistance. That's where we have to be careful.
All right. Well, Lisa, plenty to say about this subject, but thanks so much for joining us and coming in.
Thanks for having me.